everybody, this is Dina from the Rhode Island Wave. Welcome to our new feature, and I call it the On the Spot video interview series, where I bring the interview to you. Today we have a very special guest who is an amazing lady and an esteemed writer. So welcome Colleen Kelly Mellor to the Rhode Island Wave. And you have an interesting story, Colleen, which didn't just start with this. You've got a recent book out that is on the bestsellers list on Amazon. But let's tell me a little bit about you first.
79 years ago.
Oh, okay, 70. That's a decent lifespan.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to quickly fast forward.
Okay.
And I'm going to say that I was a 30-year teacher in Rhode Island.
I was going to say, writing's probably not your first career.
No,
okay.
No, 30 years, public school teacher in Cranston, resident of Warwick, was a resident of Edgewood, Cranston. Then after teaching, I volunteered in the women's prison for a while, teaching them how to do job applications and stuff. And then I went into real estate for 9 years. So I found out the difference between the public pay and the private sector pay.
Oh, okay.
Big difference. So I did very well in real estate, but I didn't like it as much as teaching. Teaching was my soul.
Yeah.
Nourished my soul.
Understood.
And I loved it. I still see a lot of my kids. We still get together and so forth. They were junior high and senior high kids.
Wonderful.
Then, all right, so I did that for 9 years. All the time, I also wrote.
Okay.
And I think we have that in common.
Now, was this when you were writing for the journal or just writing for pleasure?
I wrote in general. I wrote through crises. I've told audiences that I sat and I filled notebooks at night. This is before computers were in. And so I have all those notebooks today. I just got stuff out that I was going through.
Good. They told me when I was writers write.
And you know, there was so much, because I don't know how much my personal life you know, but I was basically married at 23, left him when I was 25, had a 6-month-old with him, raised her for the next 5 years, got married again, was married for 8 years that time. The last 2 years he had lung, bone, brain cancer. So then it was a fiance, and we were together for 2 years, and he died just before the wedding. So it was divorce, death, all by 42. I was 42 years of age.
Wow. So that's a lot of soul searching.
And I was raising 2 kids. My kids at the time were 15 and 5 when I was going through all this, and by 2 separate fathers. And so I was single parenting all those years. Caregiving. I've been a caregiver my entire life.
Right.
And so therefore, the writing really came about. I actually sent a piece out to the National Geographic Traveler. And this was when I took my 2 kids on a 5-country expedition backpacking when I was 43. I said, let me get the hell away from Can you swear on this?
Yeah, absolutely.
I said, let me get the hell away from all this bad stuff that we've had. I want a completely different thing. I want a completely different geographic area. So I took them to Italy, Austria, Switzerland, France, and Spain.
Wow.
Backpacking.
Wow.
But did I know that you're supposed to train? No.
Oh,
train with a backpack?
Oops.
I had a tenement backpack on the back of me.
Oh.
Because I had the little one stuff and my stuff. And we couldn't buy anything because we'd have to carry it.
Right.
So I ran out of Eurail, a couple of countries in, 3 countries in. So then I rented a car and drove through France.
There you go.
So I said, I'm a woman driven.
Yeah, that sounds like a woman driven to me. That's amazing.
That's what I did. So we were going for 7 weeks, 5 different countries, no ATM, no euro. You had to change money every time, and that meant
every country it was different. Yeah.
Mommy, can I have a drink? No, I don't have any money. Because they changed the money.
Right.
And so, but we had a wonderful, wonderful time.
Bonding, I'm sure.
Well, we bonded and we also fought.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever.
I can imagine.
But as I said, no ATMs, no cell phones, just us.
Just you.
And I will say that if you get a chance, take your kids traveling.
Do it.
Plus, get rid of the cell phone now. Get rid of all that stuff. I don't know if they do that today.
Yeah, well, back then they didn't have cell phones. I
We
mean,
didn't
did
have
they?
cell phones,
No.
and we didn't have ATMs.
No, right.
And we didn't have Euro, so it was all, like you said, all
You
different
just
money.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. Just go out there on the road and figure it out, because as long as you're in your skin, you're going to be okay.
The only time we had a fight was on the road to a beach in Spain, where I didn't know that placa, or whatever it is, meant beach, and I kept going by the side.
Oh, so...
And finally the older one said, I'm not doing this anymore after about the third mile.
Oh, now how old was the old one at that
The
point?
old one was 15 at the time.
Okay, so
That's the age when they don't even
oh,
have
yeah, that's the
They don't wanna be
teenage...
with you.
Yeah, no, the teenagers are rough.
The little one was helping me up. She
Yeah.
was helping me up off the floor of a train when there were no more seats on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We had some fun.
But
It was some exciting times.
So you had this whole other life.
All right, so I sent that write-up to the National Geographic Traveler, and Keith Bellows is the editor. I think he still is today. Keith sent back a letter to me, and he said, Colleen, I'm not going to use this, but I want you to send me more. When he sent me that letter, I was very encouraged. Because I really didn't think that I didn't even think about having talent. Right? That's why it's kind of funny. I'd start at the top and send to the National Geographic Traveler.
Well, it's probably just because the trip was so...
It was really, the story I wrote was quite good. And so when he said that, I felt encouraged, but I also knew I'd never be doing that. And I'm not going to be going to these fancy resorts, which National Geographic Traveler usually has, like having drinks and wine and all this stuff. I'm not doing that. So I started writing my stuff into the Providence Journal. And then they were taking it. And I was getting in maybe the op-ed section maybe 3-4 times a year.
Nice.
And then I was doing feature stories. I did one when in 2001 I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I came out in front of the whole state and telling them that I had a mastectomy and I had reconstruction. Sounds like hard hat territory. All right. So I had and I wanted people to know that it is not as frightening. Right. I wanted to lead them through the process.
Wonderful.
And so that was a biggie. That was like, and I wanted people to get mammograms.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. So I did that story, and then another story I did after that was How Much for College. That was when I sent my younger daughter, when it was time for her to go to college. We had to have a decision about where you're going to go. And it was like UPenn at, I don't know, $50,000 a year, or McGill in Montreal for $20,000 a year. And because the exchange rate. Right. So I wanted people to know that that's an option because McGill is considered the Harvard of Canada. Nice. So that's where she went. And I wrote about that. And I think McGill got a lot of people from Rhode Island. I know some of them that ended up going there.
That's good. So you've been helping people with your writing the whole time. A lot of
stuff that I do is, my intention is to teach.
Right.
But not in a pedantic manner where you're going to say, I don't want to read this.
Right. I got you.
It's interesting storylines that I get my message across.
Nice.
And then, so
now you've got 3 books.
I do. All right. So as most older people do, they start to decide, where are we going to retire? And do I want to stay in Rhode Island all the time because it gets cold here? Although it's not as cold as it used to get.
No, not at all.
And we used to get snow. So then for years and years, we'd go on vacations. We'd say, well, what about this place? And we figured, a lot of places didn't really suit us. So we're looking around, and when we got really serious about choosing, we did the whole eastern seaboard. And a lot of those communities, if they're condominium communities, they have boating and they have golfing. Well, we don't do either. Right. So now, why are we going to pay for that component? So we're kind of dejected. We can't find anything. We did check out Naples, Florida. It's too fancy for me. All right, we don't like to dress up. This is as dressy as I get. All right?
Okay, love it.
So we say, that's not going to really work. It's expensive too.
Right.
And so he had been a long-haul trucker for 30 years. So he knew all of the United States. So we then
that's your
husband.
current husband.
Yeah, we went together for 33 years. And we only got married last December, but that's a story for later.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, we decide that we're going to check out Asheville, North Carolina. So we get on to Asheville. I fall in love. After 3 days, I'm ready to buy.
Ooh.
Because I call them aging hippies with a little money.
There you go.
All right. So it was laid back, beautiful crafts, lots of artisans, lots of good music, beautiful mountains. What's not to love there?
Right.
It was beautiful. So we buy a condo there. And because I'm a realtor, I know exactly what to get, and it's being built.
Right.
All right. So it's got everything. All right. It's got 2 master suites. It's got the granite. It's just perfect. In the 4th year, just before we come back to Rhode Island, because we used to do the split. 7 months here, 5 months there. All right. In the 4th year, I was at brunch with girlfriends, and I get the phone call, and it's a policeman calling me to tell me that he's been in a dreadful accident.
Oh.
Now, his car was crushed. It was just before we were supposed to come back. And find out that he had a broken neck, 9-hour surgery the next day. The following day, he dies from swelling. All right. Completely shuts down. The hospital calls me that he coded. All right. Their lingo for he died. They brought him back with a paddle. Sometimes I forget to mention that. People are left with the fact that he died.
Oh, jeepers.
So they brought him back with the paddles, but he had suffered an anoxic episode. No oxygen to the brain. All right. It took us 2 years coming off that. And in those 2 years, because I have to have something that brings me out of the depths of despair, that's when we produced Grandpa and the Truck.
Oh.
Stories for little kids, and they're based on his 30-year career. Each book has 2 stories in it, and the second book here has girl truckers in it. Which is based on, because I'm a big, like equal time for the girls, etc.
Yeah.
Girl truckers were 2 women that he actually knew from Rhode Island that could like rebuild a carburetor in no time at all. They knew everything there was, and they were fantastic truckers. So we hired an illustrator, and the books have been a resounding success. We'd go to children audiences too. And of course he'd wear his outfit, his trucker outfit was this. He's from Arkansas originally.
That's cool.
So he'd wear his cool kind of Texas, Arkansas hat, and his belt buckle, which is a truck, and jeans, and he was a handsome guy. He still is.
Oh.
All right? Very handsome guy. So the kids loved it. We'd go and visit and so forth. But it got harder because he has Alzheimer's. And
now, did you know he had Alzheimer's before the accident, or did this come out during this whole? It was starting.
Yeah, before the accident.
They say there are symptoms way before it gets bad.
I get that question with audiences all the time. Like, when did you first notice it?
Right.
Everybody goes through this. There are 2 or 3 kind of things that make you sit up and take notice. Like, that's really different. That's really not good.
Right.
They are over the just forgetfulness kind of thing.
Right.
Like people all say, "Oh, I can't remember somebody's name." No, that's not what we're talking here.
Okay, right. Whereas you can't remember your name.
Yeah,
you can't remember where you live. Oops.
That's true.
Then that's when you know. So for me, I have some memory issues too because of my neck issues, which give me some foggy head. But I write stuff down, and somehow I manage. It's not Alzheimer's. It probably won't be. It doesn't really run in my family.
Right.
So this disease is a dreadful disease.
It's dreadful, and they are projecting that by 2050, that half of the population over 60 will either have cognitive impairment or they'll be caring for somebody with it. Which, and COVID, we were talking earlier about how COVID had an effect on people, that they've developed other illnesses and so forth because of this. I know my husband ended up with diabetes, and he'd never had that before.
You're right.
And this was following up because he had COVID first. So COVID, the fog of COVID, actually has something to do also, they believe, with people who are showing signs of dementia.
Right.
And cognitive
so it kind of
impairment.
speeds all this stuff up, that we might be having these other issues.
Yeah. So he was showing signs prior to the accident, but then after the accident, it took us 2 years after the accident of PT and OT, physical therapy and occupational therapy, to get through that. And then I had to make a decision. Are we going to keep going back and forth to North Carolina? I can't keep doing that.
It's a lot of work.
It was me doing 2 houses, me running everything, me paying all the bills. Just the sheer management of one house is enough.
Right.
If you're doing it all alone, but I was now doing 2 houses.
Right.
And I was driving back and forth.
Right.
I love driving, but not that much.
Yeah, not me. Thank you.
So it was, I said, okay, what are we going to do? And I said, where do you want to live? Do you want to live full-time in Asheville or full-time in Rhode Island? He said Rhode Island. I was shocked because he's from Arkansas.
Yeah, but we love Rhode Island.
I know,
Come on now.
We love it. He's been here since he was 20.
Yeah,
So
this is really, we try not to tell too many people because we can't have too many more people coming in. But this is like the best place.
But I did tell a lot.
Oh, no, look, she's giving up. We tell Rhode Islanders about how great Rhode Island is. You're going, that's why we go beyond the borders here. What did you do?
Boomerang has 3 R's in it. And boomerang, I say it for that reason.
Because you came back.
If you're a writer, don't try a cutesy title because autocorrect does 1 R. And the guy that wrote boomerang with 1 R is real happy.
Oh, goody.
All right, so you got some of my people. So boomerang is about people that leave their state. They go south because they want warmer climate and so forth. And we've done all of the preparatory work. We've, I talk about how we went to the coastal, eastern coastline communities and golfing and all that. And I say why we nix those. And then we go in and we find nirvana here with Asheville. We love it so much. And then I talk about what happened in the 4th year. When he got hit by a 12-year-old girl driving a GMC truck on the mountain road behind our condo complex.
Oh, no.
She was 12. She was a tiny little thing. She had cute little flip-flops on that had a little jewel in them. And, of course, I know all that because she rode in the same ambulance as he over to the hospital. So she's crying. I'm comforting her because she should have never been in a position.
No, she shouldn't have been driving.
Her 60-year-old uncle had decided to let her do this. She panicked.
Oh, good Lord.
And she crossed over into his lane, and that's how he got hit. But in any case, I wrote this book because I had a lot of downtime. I was struck as a realtor. I was struck by the fact that people were coming in from out of state, like us, and they were going through and they were buying properties, $700,000 properties, that were right next to a Superfund site. Do you know what a Superfund site is?
No, tell me, what a Superfund?
The most toxic dump sites there are. So it's when a business was there, and a business, this particular place that I talk about in this book is called a CTS plant. It was a metal plant. And Atlantic Magazine, which I love. Atlantic Magazine is a really good magazine, and they do thorough researching and so forth. And on the front cover, they had one issue that was all about the CTS plant and how they were taking their metal byproducts and just dumping them into the
Oh,
backyard.
and I'm sure they don't tell you that when you're going to go buy your condo.
No, they don't. And the thing is, these people were coming in. Now, they might even be doctors. Doctors don't have time at night. They have to read their work on medical. With I was very upset for other buyers that were coming in.
Right.
When I came in, I immediately sought a buyer broker.
Right.
Somebody that would represent me, because if you are buying off a sign, like you, Nina, call up and say, well, I want to see this property. And you walk in and then you offer something.
Right, the seller gets, they get both sides.
You're dealing with the realtor who represents the seller's interest.
Right.
So I know enough, or knew enough, when we were buying, I said, I want a buyer broker, somebody that's just loyal to us.
Exactly.
And that's what we had. But I did see so many other people coming in, oh, I like it. So I'm going to call the realtor, I'm just going to go in. Well, that's how the people ended up next door to a Superfund site.
Right. Somebody's going to be on your side.
Now, when you go to sell that property, not only that, I mean, I wouldn't want to live there because the air and everything. And some of these places are still on well water. Oh, yeah. Especially if you go out to some of these areas that are out in the country and so forth. And so it became another labor of, let me tell people what they need to know to protect themselves. But it's also funny.
I imagine it's funny. You go through all that and then you end up back home.
Well, I've got people on here, the reviews on Amazon again, because I've self-published all of my stuff. And people have written in that it was thigh-slapping funny. It was, they couldn't, the husband was bursting out laughing as they were reading the stories, because one lady who runs a stained glass place nearby, Ellis Gephardt and Rick Gephardt, and they're on the shops every year for great products and so forth. And she said, we just had so much fun. He was reading out the story, because I always do short stories. Oh yeah, people like
short. I try to tell people to send in less than 500 words, almost.
3 pages. Make it succinct.
Yeah. Yes.
And get a little. If you can make it funny, even better.
Nice.
Do a little punch in there. Leave them laughing.
Yeah.
Whatever. Because you don't want even the last book that I'm going to talk about, which sounds odd. AZ and Me is my book on Alzheimer's. Right. As a sole caregiver for 13 years. Right. He is now presently in the veterans home. And they actually offered him a bed there for 4 years. And every year of 3, I said, we're not ready yet. Right. And that's what other people wrestle with. Like, when is it time?
When is it time?
And so I basically said, the last time they called me, he'd had a really rough year. He was in the hospital for COVID, and then he was in the hospital for the diabetic crisis that came on the heels of COVID.
Right. And in this all time, the Alzheimer's is getting worse and worse.
Yes, and I just cannot keep doing this all alone. Right. Because and I'm not alone. There are many people that are doing it all alone. Now, I had the wonderful benefit of his being eligible for veteran benefits. Right. Now, I'll tell you, a lot of people don't know about this. And they are basically, I didn't know about it. When he was in the military, he was 2 years as a CB, and way back when he was 20, and now he's 83. So he was 2 years as a CB, then he got out, and then later on, he was 20 years as Army National Guard. Ah. All right, so he's got all those years of service. But when he got out, which was about 15 or 20 years ago, you have a separation thing that you do with the military. They tell you what you are eligible for and so forth, but I wasn't sitting there.
Right, so you don't know, right.
So as he's got Alzheimer's and he is less and less able to remember things, he doesn't say to me, Colleen, I know I've got benefits. I'm unaware of them. So about 7 years ago, I got really sick. And it had to do with the fact it started out, you'll concur with this, it was a herniated disc. Back. Then I had a racking cough, it shot the pain level up to 15 on the 1 to 10. And then they put me on hydrocodone.
Oh.
Hydrocodone messed up my gut significantly.
Yep.
And I got very sick, and I was probably in bed for 2 months.
Oh my! Now, how are you
And
taking care of him?
Nobody to help me.
Nobody, right? There's
So
nobody.
he's coming to the door of the bedroom every day about 15 times, asking me, Colleen, what can I do? What can I do? And all I want is I just have to rest.
Right. Oh no! Trust me, I know that pain.
So I eventually decided I've got to put him somewhere.
So this is a love story too. In all of this, it's helpful. Even the truck magazine, I was thinking, he looks like a relatable guy. And then now you're doing this, and you're bringing him with you, and you're talking about these truck stories, and he's with you, and he's recovering from the accident, and then the boomerang, he's with you in this whole thing. This is a love story. It's not just, you're not just taking care of some random person with Alzheimer's. No. This is the man you love.
This guy. All right. Now we're together 33 years, right? And I don't let him live with me until 10 years in. And that's because I had such a track record of bad stuff that I said, if I marry him, I'll kill him.
Oh, well.
I mean, because that's what happened to the other two.
Right.
All right. So anyway, he's going to all of these presentations with me. And we're going in front of senior audiences that would like to buy books for their grandchildren.
Yeah.
All right. So what better than something Rhode Island trucker all over the United States?
It's better than Prince Charming.
And by the
Trucker
way,
Charming.
Well, he is charming. And by the way, he won awards for no accidents and no incidents. He was heralded nationally by Atlas Van Lines for being one of the 50 top truckers in the nation, which is why it's even more ironic that this 12-year-old girl takes him out on a road in North Carolina in our retirement state, which is supposed to be an easier life.
Right.
All right, so he goes to all these senior presentations with me, and I'm up there in the front, and I'm getting my stuff ready and getting my easel and all my stuff on it and so forth. And we arrive early to set up. So he's sitting in the back all by himself, and this is always an older audience of about 30 women and 3 men.
Well,
you know the odds, especially as you get older, right? So this woman comes in, and she makes a beeline for him.
Oh!
And she sits right next to him. And I told you, he's got his Texas hat on. He's looking cute as can be. So she thinks he's available. So she comes and she sits next to him. And next thing I look, she's going like this. She's stroking his arm. And she says, "Oh, you look just like Roy Rogers." Oh, she's like really hitting on him.
How long did it take you to get up?
I turned around in the front and I look at
That's my man.
I say to her, "That must make me Dale Evans."
Oh, nice. There you go.
Good retort.
Yes,
Good.
yes.
And she immediately drops her hand and she immediately leaves.
Yeah, good.
But we were laughing about
Yes.
it. So I even mentioned that in AZ Me because he used to be with me at all of the, and I liked it.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
I liked when he was there because he's my biggest fan.
Yep.
He was always, when I would write stories, if they were touching, because some of mine are, and they had a love element or they were patriotic, because I've written about heroes. I wrote about the first man that was shot down over the Vietnam War. That was my brother-in-law. That was another cover story for the Providence Journal. So when he would read these stories, he's an empath. He had tears in his eyes.
Oh.
And so that's why I say he was my
That's that bond.
biggest fan. He gave me the courage to feel like I could do those things. Oh. I wasn't alone in front of a group presenting. Paul was with me. But then as the disease progressed, it got less and less of a possibility because he might have to leave. He'd raise his hand. He'd say, "Well, I got to go for 5 minutes." Well, 5 minutes with somebody with Alzheimer's, you may never see them again.
Exactly.
So it became less and less. I could not keep doing that.
No, yeah.
So there was a period of time that that's when I started writing AZ and Me.
And once again, this is a crisis or a situation that you're going through, and this book helps people who are going to come after you. I always love that when people go through a door and they kick it open.
And I do that with, I kick open doors. That's a good analogy.
So it stays open. So the next person doesn't have to, maybe, it doesn't have to be so terrible. Oh, look at that.
I want to say also, I don't know if you can see this. This is a picture of my family. All right? My father and mother are seated in the front. That's this is their 50th wedding anniversary. We 4 Kelly kids are standing in the back. And I look the best I've ever looked. I was on this side right here. I'm 42. I've just come off the worst 2 years of my life. So it's sort of like the phoenix rising.
Good.
My brothers here, they have both died in this last year, and they both died of Alzheimer's.
Oh, wow.
This brother right here was head of neurology of George Washington University Hospital. All right? They named a wing after him. My point in mentioning this is Alzheimer's is an equal opportunity destroyer.
It doesn't discriminate.
All right?
For
My
sure.
father died of Alzheimer's, so that's 1, 2, 3. And here I am. My sister's over here. She is living in Maine at this time. So we have a history of this disease routing the family. And as I said, this is one of the reasons why I wrote. And by the way, this book has poetry in it.
Oh, nice.
Do you like poetry?
Of course.
You do?
I do.
All right. Well, I have, can I read a poem?
Sure.
Hold on, I got to put my glasses
Yeah, we
on.
need the glasses.
All right.
Sorry.
This is called It's Fine. Now, the big presentation that I had in Cranston, that's when the Department of Health sponsored me to speak on Alzheimer's to caregivers. And because caregivers today are not getting anywhere near the support that they need. All right, so this is how I opened the book. To Paul, that's my husband. It's fine. It's fine if you don't recall the time you galloped the streets of Firenze, Florence, in your cowboy boots because I panicked. We were late in joining our tour group. I hear the clop, clop, clop in my head as your skinny legs flew along cobblestones to do my bidding. Run, I said, and you willingly obliged. It's fine if you don't recall helping me in and out of the shower after my breast cancer surgery. Surgical drains in place. My breast was gone, but you stayed. The time we rode your BSA motorcycle on the Cabot Trail in Canada, with me hugging your body, my hands frozen in the fall air. At the fancy B&B later, you shocked guests sipping sherry, telling them you broke wind for me all day. You meant you were my windshield, but they were aghast thinking you crude. We laughed at that often. Over many years, we pedaled miles of bike paths, coursing along rivers and beach paths like children riding tirelessly through seasons of transition. Till now. In this last season, it's fine if you don't remember all those occasions, because I do. And I'll remember for both of us.
Nice.
I usually end the session with that poem.
Because this is a love story.
That is. And they will know that they are the ones that will record what happens, whether they do it verbally to their families or they choose to write it. And I choose to write it either with 1-2-page short stories, they're snapshots of our life, but I also tell you important stuff in this book, like how do you find out if you qualify for veteran benefits?
Right.
And I give them the keys so that they will know how to do that. How do you find out that a lawyer is really accredited to help seniors? So that you don't just go to somebody saying, oh yeah, I'm a senior lawyer. Well, what does he mean by that? Does he have credentials?
Right.
Or she? Does she have the credentials, taken the coursework, knowing what to advise you? And then I get to the end where, well, now I should tell you this too. Did you know we got married?
Yes, I heard. After 30 years.
33 years later. Hey, that's coming up. Our wedding anniversary is coming up. All right, it's December 16th. So last December 16th, we got married. And the reason, people say, why did you do it now? Well, it's not about finances, that's for sure, because you got to be married 10 years before you can collect anybody's finances. That's if he should go before me.
Right.
So we got married.
Nice.
This is our marriage ceremony. It was very small.
Yeah.
It was just like 6 of us or whatever. It was at my daughter's house. And when he went into the veterans home, or when you go into any facility, they want to know, what is your final destination?
Oh, right.
So where are you going,
Right.
at the last hurrah?
I'm going to the beach.
Well, your ashes are going to the beach, I take it, right?
Yeah.
So I got those ready, and I went down to Veteran Cemetery, and I talked to them at the desk, and I said, okay, we're going to be in here. And they said, oh, no, you can't be. And I said, excuse me? They said, no, you have to be a spouse to be in. And I thought, damn, 33 years together.
You think by then you'd be common law, but I guess you have to actually do the. You have to. I think you have to file taxes together, and that's another thing that people need to know. You can't just assume that that's going to all work out. You got to make sure.
Yes, and so I'll tell you something else, and this is probably going to shock a lot of people. I hope it does shock them. I hope they do get knowledgeable about this. Presently, we pay 80% of his monthly income for where he is. All right, now, let me put that in perspective. It's about $3,900. What would we pay if we didn't have veteran benefits? $10,000 to $14,000 a month.
Right.
He's been in there a year and a half.
Right.
We don't know how long he's going to be in the residence itself, because he's had us for 14 years already.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, the normal fees for memory care are like $10,000 to $14,000 a month.
Well, yeah. So people need
Who
to.
can sustain that?
No, and that's why people basically kill themselves taking care of their person at home.
Themselves figuratively.
Well, no. I don't. I mean the caregiver.
Yes. Yes.
It could be literally killing them because
doing it because they don't have a choice.
Yeah, they don't have a choice. Otherwise, they could lose their home. Trying to pay for something
But
like
a
that.
man I know right down the road, he used to come here, 3 times a week, because he knew I'm also a person with cognitive impairment, and his wife had it. And we had gone to the same church together. And David'd be at the door, knocking on the door, and I knew he was at a desperate point. I'd lead him in the house and bring him out to the front, and then Dave would start crying and saying, I can't stand this anymore, Colleen. She's driving me crazy. It's the same questions like 1,000 times a day. And he eventually had to put her in a facility. Well, she was in there for 2 years. Ate up all of their money, ate up everything. Now he's got it.
Right.
So people say, well, just go on Medicaid. Well, a lot of places won't accept Medicaid.
Right.
So you don't have any options.
Which is also a second problem.
So it's an important thing that you figure out, and I say this in the book, get financial advice as early as possible, so that you can learn ways to offset those catastrophic situations.
Right. So let me just. So all of your books are available on Amazon. This is available on Amazon, and any local stores carrying it right now.
It's at Barrington Books.
Okay.
I've been a little lazy about getting it to. My big thing right now is I want to speak to audiences.
Oh, okay.
I want to go around. I've already told you that the Rhode Island Department of Health, in collaboration with Cranston Senior Services, they had me do a presentation end of September, and I had about 80 in the audience. It was a huge gathering, and that went very well, and it was very helpful to people, and I sell books when I'm doing this as well. And then I had Leisure Learning. I spoke in front of that group. They had me 2 other times, so they really like me.
And I know you have a website, and it's
do.
your name, all spelled out.
Yeah, all double L, double E, Colleen.
It's Colleen Kelly Mellor.
Mellor.com.
So you go to there, and then if they want to book you to come in and speak, they can book you to speak, and you have links so you can buy the book.
They should please contact me if you have a group that you think would merit from what I offer in this book. I'll give you it's like a smorgasbord. I'll come in and speak about what's in the book. Mm-hmm. And, so the audience reaction has been really great. They've liked it. They enjoy it. It's not negative. It's not, oh, I don't want to go to something depressing.
Right.
It's
really, important. You have a wealth of knowledge that you're willing to share and impart on people, and that's a wonderful gift that you give back to people. So if you want to get a hold of her, go to her website, ColleenKellyMellor.com, and send her an email and have her set up a function where
guest speaking.
Yes, guest speaking, where she can come in and talk to you about the book.
Okay.